Welcome to the Bible Forum. It is Sunday evening, February 10th, 2019, and there have been a number of things that have assaulted your thought processes this week. I am Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern, and the rest of the week on every possible kind of video playback. I've just started this week doing some things again with Twitter. I gave up on Twitter. It's just too many things going on. But I'm going to try to get back, and when I think of something during the week, I'm going to put it out there to you. So sign up for the Twitter feed. Give you a little heads up. There may be some things we'll talk about on Twitter or I'll share with you that we won't get anywhere else. If you have been paying any attention, I trust that you have been, you will be aware how that social bigotry has pretty much dominated the headlines all of this week. Offend the holy God of the universe, and you're what? You're cool, you're hip. Use some of the vilest words you know to describe a political opposite. Ridicule Christians and the God they serve. None of this seems to be out of line, let alone wrong. However, apparently, if you have ever donned blackface somewhere in your past, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that has suddenly become a current reason to destroy your life or your reputation. And the reason doesn't matter. Doesn't care why you did it or what your intent was. It is an overt slap at the black community, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're a racist. Or at least 30 years ago you were. That is, however, unless you are a liberal entertainer. Rising up out of the past are several popular figures with liberal bona fides who have done this. Joy Behar, Jimmy Kimmel, to name two. Apparently it's a crime only when conservatives do it. Can you say hypocrisy? Or is it deliberate destruction of political enemies that's in view? The cases in Virginia have appeared to break the mold. The governor, Ralph Northam, and lieutenant governor are both deemed to be unfit to govern the Commonwealth due to events in their past. The governor appeared in blackface 35 years ago at a party. The lieutenant governor, who would succeed him, is being accused of rape 15 years ago, 8 years ago, and it's probably more to come. And now the third man in line of succession, the Attorney General of Virginia, is also accused of appearing in blackface at a college party. Did I mention they're all Democrats? Liberal, socialist Democrats? Oh, the hypocrisy. In other Virginia news, we have the Democrat state delegate to the Virginia House, a woman by the name of Kathy Tran, who filed a bill that would have eliminated many of the restrictions on late-term abortion. This has become the new thing again. State after state, representative, governor, whoever, they're just trying to put back the idea that you can kill your baby. After the Supreme Court said, oh, wait a minute, we went too far with this. We allowed abortions up to and including 9 months. In fact, we had post-birth abortions. And we backed that down to 3 months. And there are 7, 8, 9, 10 states that are just screaming bloody murder. They want the freedom to kill their babies. That bill was filed January 9. The same day she filed something called House Bill 2495. And that bill pertained to the fall cankerworm. Never heard of it. Specifically, this bill would have prohibited localities from spraying pesticides intended to suppress an infestation of fall cankerworm during the period between March 1st and August 1st. The fall cankerworm is a caterpillar pest that can devastate trees. Pro-lifers on social media think the contrast between the two bills is striking. Kill your babies, don't kill the caterpillar pest. A bill in the Vermont House has been more than that has more than 80 co-sponsors, declared that fetuses, I guess that's the plural, have no rights, and that women who perform their own abortions cannot be prosecuted. Women who have performed their own abortions, tenuous little lines going all the way back to maybe murder, you can't have that. Some observers are calling this bill even more radical than the controversial abortion bills in New York and Virginia. The abortion bill in New York was signed into law last month. And the governor, Cuomo, he went all out to just scream and holler and laugh and dance and just proclaim victory on every level. Every individual who becomes pregnant has the fundamental right to choose to carry a pregnancy to term, give birth to a child, or have an abortion. House Bill 57 says. The bill then declares a fertilized egg, embryo, or fetus shall not have independent rights under Vermont law. The New York law did not include such language. It's getting worser. It even gives Vermont citizens the right to perform their own abortions. Now we have Democrats who have set out to redefine life. If we go back just 50 years ago, that whole concept would be shocking. But today, it just rolls right off their tongue. It's not a problem for them. Democrats have blocked a Senate bill that would have required doctors to keep alive any baby that survives an abortion and immediately transport that baby to a hospital. The bill was sponsored by Republican Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, who requested, quote, unanimous consent, end of quote, for passage. Unanimous consent is a move in Congress, an action that allows any one senator to block it. Clearly, this was an effort to intimidate or to isolate any senator who favored infanticide. Well, it didn't work. Or did it? Democrat Senator Patty Murray from Washington spoke up and objected, saying laws already exist to prohibit infanticide. She also said that Sasse had misinterpreted the bill. How do you misinterpret words like survives an abortion? Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida criticized Democrats for blocking that bill. Senator Rubio observed that Senate Democrats would block a bill to prevent a baby who survives an abortion speaks volumes. He went on to say that supporting a newborn's right to life should not be a partisan issue. Unfortunately, Senate Democrats, like their colleagues in Virginia and New York, seem to have no problem publicly supporting legal infanticide. It's clear that on the issue of life, extremism has become mainstream in the Democrat Party. Brit Hume, senior political analyst for Fox News, tweeted out, "They claim the bill bans nothing not already banned. And so that would make it harmless, right? So why block it?" Brit, don't bring logic into the debate. It has no place. Over on the other side of the globe, back on February 4th of this year, 2019, the Pope, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar signed an historic declaration of fraternity. It calls for peace between nations, between religions, between races. All of this in front of a global audience of religious leaders from Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and other faiths. Other faiths Catholicism is not a faith, it's a work system. Islam is not a faith, it's a works system. Judaism is not a faith, it's a works system. And other faiths. Like those? Or like what? Christianity? Which, if interpreted correctly, meaning from the Bible, is a faith. Anyway, Pope Francis, the leader of the world's Catholics, and Sheikh Ahmad al-Tayyib, the head of Sunni Islam's most prestigious seat of learning, arrived at the ceremony in Abu Dhabi hand in hand in a symbol of interfaith brotherhood. Did I tell you it wasn't a faith? Many in America are living in fear of climate change. The fact that there is no sign that anything like this is occurring doesn't seem to matter. The temperatures are rising, and that can only mean one thing. Okay, but consider that these increases are being measured only against more recent years, only the years men were keeping track. Does that mean anything? Apparently not. All that matters is that the average temperatures, since we started keeping track, are going up. Here are the facts. In 2014, Antarctica registered the coldest winter on record. 2014 also saw record snowfalls in many areas. Oceans are rising at levels less than predicted. Polar bears are thriving. Moose are making a comeback. 99% of scientists don't believe in global warming. Nature produces CO2, more CO2 than mankind. And the main players in this hoax, they live lifestyles opposite of what they preach. Last week, we saw record cold in much of the United States. Was that global warming? No, it was a natural event where the polar vortex, that whirling mass of low pressure cold air that generally stays over the North Pole, broke apart and sent chunks of it down south. Of course, that happens every winter. It's why we have winter. This year, it was just simply larger. God provided the fossil fuel we burn. God allowed sin into the system, corrupting both the species and the planet. Why? Well, you need to read it. Daniel chapter 7, Revelation chapter 13. As a result of the flood, we had this huge breakup of the mantle. You can still see the pieces. There are all these little pieces, and they moved around and did strange things, and the earth was filled with, and the mountains came up, and things came down, and it rolled around, and it's a large part why we have fossil fuel today. So it must be God's fault. It's amazing. The Religious News Service is reporting that when the administration of Azusa Pacific University dropped the section of its student code of conduct that banned same-sex relationships last August, the reaction was swift. American Christian media and church leaders were quick to accuse the evangelical school of caving to societal pressure and compromising its Christian identity. The response prompted the university's board to reverse that change, affirming the definition of marriage as being between one man and one woman. About the same time, Trinity Western University, Canada's premier evangelical university, also made a change related to same-sex relationships, but in a different way and with far different results. In Trinity Western University's case, the school kept its community covenant, which requires students to abstain from sexual intimacy that violates the sacredness of marriage between a man and a woman. But signing the covenant, they made voluntary. Over the past year, reaction to the change has been mostly positive, according to James Tweedy, TWU's Director of Marketing, and support for the university remains strong. He said, quote, "We haven't experienced a negative impact on donations. In fact, both donations and enrollment continue to be stronger than in prior years." I know, unless you have been asleep or living in a van down by the river without technology, the Democrats in Virginia can't find a governor. So who hasn't done blackface at the highest levels of state government in Virginia? In the span of less than a week, the entire Democrat administration running the state has collapsed over allegations of sexual assault and racist photos. Last Friday, it was Democrat Ralph Northam's 1984 yearbook page from Eastern Virginia Medical School that showed a racist photo featuring two people, completely unidentifiable, in blackface and Klan attire, respectively. Northam admitted he was the guy in blackface and he apologized. And then he retracted his apology, saying that was not him in the photo. In a day or so, it was revealed that Virginia's Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax, a black man, raped or at least sexually abused a woman at a Democrat National Convention 15 years ago. Since then, another woman has come forward, and we can only imagine there probably are more. So now the baton that would have been handed to Virginia's attorney, or to Virginia's second in command, has now got to be handed to the third guy, the Attorney General, a man who quickly admitted to dressing up in blackface in 1980. So the Virginians wonder, now what? Well, the stories are circulating that the plan is for Governor Northam, who has gone to ground, not to take calls, not to tell anybody where he is, just stay out of sight and out of contact until this whole thing blows over. They need to rescue him. They're betting that the media has a short attention span, and in a few weeks the whole thing will be replaced by something even more salacious or controversial. Did you ever dress up in blackface? Did you ever dress up in blackface? Sober, I mean. Do you know anybody who did? And if you saw that, what would the first thing come to mind? What would it be? Was it racism? I don't know. Go back in time. Go back to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. It wasn't that big a deal. Well, it was to some people, and still is. In other news, in a bizarre display, a self-identifying church in Kentucky. That's the way the news article described it, a self-identifying church in Kentucky. I have no idea what that really means. This church turned their Sunday service into a Super Bowl celebration with its pastors pretending to be football players and competing in preaching, complete with referees, a pig roast, commercials, and a band going wild at halftime. They reported, "We've got jambalaya cooking out front, a pig roast, and pulled pork sandwiches," Mark Stetchler said, who is the lead pastor of Crossroad campuses in central Kentucky. "We've got our own commercials, and the band is wild at halftime." 13 Crossroad campuses in Kentucky and Ohio participated in this event in order to get people excited about coming to church. Church attendance in these campuses apparently is at an all-time low. It certainly is in America. Various pastors from Crossroads take turns preaching and are judged based on the message. They say, "We have a referee judging how much the message is worth. He throws a flag if they get out of bounds, if they have random phrases that have to build into their talk." Chaos. The event attracted nearly 70,000 people last year, and it's estimated that 100,000 people attended this year. This is what we call church. You ever learned Bible verses? You ever been in a contest perhaps to learn Bible verses, or just in your family or among yourself or for your own benefit? Well, in one case, if you can't learn the Bible verses, apparently you need or deserve to die. People, 3 people, have been arrested in Wisconsin for the death of a 7-year-old boy after he was allegedly punished for failing to memorize a list of Bible verses. Fox News is reporting 7-year-old Ethan was in Timothy and Tina Hauschultz's care when they, along with their 15-year-old son, forced him to hold a log weighing 50 pounds for 2 hours every day for a week. Why? Couldn't memorize the verses. The medical examiner determined that the 15-year-old hit and kicked Ethan about 100 times. That the 15-year-old put Ethan's head in a puddle before rolling the 44-pound log on his chest and standing on his head and body. The teen then buried Ethan under a pile of snow, causing him to die from hypothermia and blunt force trauma. That was April of last year. Reports are the 15-year-old confessed to police that he was given the responsibility to oversee Ethan and his twin brother's punishments. Reportedly, both children were undergoing this cruel treatment because they were unable to memorize 13 Bible verses selected by Timothy. And all of this when the parents were where? Doing what? The parents are arrested as well. They're supposed to have control. Can you say Great Tribulation? It's a favorite topic, especially today. Are you comfortable with your DNA being shared with law enforcement around the country? So, well, I don't know how they would get it. Well, some of us, not me, some of us have donated our DNA to various organizations to see just what our heritage is. One of those organizations, an organization called Family Tree DNA, they're one of the largest home DNA testing companies, is now allowing FBI agents to search its databases as they look to solve violent crime cases. You see, today, Big Brother knows who you are. He knows where you are. He knows where you've been. And he can put all that together with other identifiers, totally eliminating your privacy. You do know Google is tracking everywhere you go, right? I told you last week, they sent me an email, showed a map, every place I'd been for the last 2 months. And they were right. Are you okay with that? It's soon going to be that it don't matter. They're going to do it anyway. Here's an organization, didn't ask your permission, did they? No, it's your DNA, but it's their files. And they gave access to the files. One day that companies like that will be required to do that. And the sheep will continue to donate the DNA and do all the things that they normally do, never once realizing that there is a day when all that's going to come home to roost. It's called the Great Tribulation. And they will know where you are, who you are, and they'll know what you are. The Pentagon announced last Sunday, the deployment of an additional 3,750 active duty soldiers to the southern U.S. border, where troops will assist with border barrier construction and aid customs and border protection agents. What are the details? Well, according to the Associated Press, the troops will be deployed for 90 days. They will assist with mobile surveillance operations in addition to aiding CPB place razor wire on 150 miles of the border. Active duty troops do not physically enforce the law at the border. It's a federal offense. They're not allowed to do that. That's the Border Patrol's job. But they can assist in other capacities, such as manning mobile observation posts in which troops monitor for illegal activity on the border, and then radio the CPB agents if they detect any. The new total at the border of soldiers is 4,350. This is an ongoing situation. There were people at Camp David this Friday and Saturday trying to work out the details. On the Sunday morning shows today, they talked as if they were close to making some sort of progress. But as the day wore on, news reports said the whole thing is broken down. Do you have any idea why the Democrats do not want to stop these people from coming across the border? Now, they say you don't need a wall, we can do it other ways. But apparently, we were doing it other ways, and it didn't help. And now we're being told anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 more people are on the way up the trail. You got to wonder, is America up, or is down now up? And is up down? We'll talk about that in the next segment. Stay tuned.